I will let you all know if it's something that is relevant to the slide in the moment. I'll let you know, or if it's something that like comes up in the end, I'll let you know. Although the YouTube chat's a little quiet today. I know as soon as I say that, 18 comments will come, but I'll absolutely let you know when you have a question.
Okay. We're going to do a Q&A.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we had you know,
So the private foundation and
they said they didn't receive environmental, no resilience, no education.
You didn't get any slides from that stuff?
Nothing.
That stuff. He said he didn't get any slides.
Mine?
Yeah, I have the video.
He got 2 videos. So
Okay, so.
You know what? I'll forward it because it did come to me. Since you. Ooh, boy. But I received it.
Your video and my video?
He said he got those too. Whew. I know.
They're like, they're not doing anything in this.
Oh, sad. Nicole, do we get to go over 15 minutes?
Well, 15 minutes takes us, you get to 10 and 5, and that kind of takes us into the break, so that's up to you all.
Okay. Okay.
But I want to give you that official end time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Make up for some time that we lost.
nothing will get communicated if you don't put the .com after it.
It's got
And
to
I'm
be
one of
some.
the first people that got an email address back in the 90s.
Really?
We definitely need to say email in case if you were an educational institution,
Mm.
military, you got email. And then the corporations, larger institutions. But then that's when Hotmail came out, and then Yahoo.
Let me know.
And AOL that you have to pay
Oh,
for.
I didn't even fool with that. I still have my daughter works for Yahoo. And she works for a couple of, works for Google, she works for a couple of, I still have my original Yahoo. I don't know why, stuff comes there. Like,
You
people,
just can't help yourself.
yeah, you know, I have like the Gmail and others that I use, but it's something about that Yahoo one, it's like, what if somebody from like 30, 25 years ago wants to find me and they have that email? Like, how are you gonna find me? I'm not on LinkedIn and all that stuff. Because there's so many handles. I get no work done. I wouldn't, because even now, like today, my phone.
There's your video, I'm looking at it.
You see mine?
I saw your video. I don't see ours yet. I don't see
No,
mine
let's
yet.
see.
There we go, yep. But I guess you. Yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
so I have to, and see, our organization, the violence rates that we stand, we're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid. But we have to work of someone.
Thank you.
Time for it's time for end to that. They're just faithful people that want to do the work. And I'm a crazy person that believes in it.
Thank you all for your patience. We, as we work through these technical difficulties.
And the doctor just says, "Stay up." You have a life, there's no one else.
We can start great. Thanks so much. Good Thursday, everyone. Thank you all for joining our session. I'm Queen Shabazz, and I'm from Earth. I don't think I'm going to live anywhere else in my lifetime, and that is why I do this work that we do. I want to welcome you to our session on Black Women Lead Community Resilience Efforts. I'm the founder of United Parents Against Lead, and this discussion centers women who have taken the initiative to create resilient communities. The discussion will include impacts of resiliency hubs and environmental justice communities, and our panelists will share the paths that they've traveled, challenges, barriers encountered while establishing their hubs. And finally, we will share triumphs, lessons learned, and best practices that have emerged from years of working to obtain a healthy environment and a safe space for Black and brown people to live, learn, love, work, play, and pray. I'll introduce our two panelists and then turn it over to them as we go out. And in the end, we'll have some question and answering sessions. So our first panelist is Dr. Estelle Marie Montgomery. Dr. Montgomery is an executive catalyst for growth, transformation, and innovation. She has over 25 years of experience spanning multiple continents and industries. She initially started her career in biomedical research, but transitioned to the corporate sector where she held several key positions, focusing on acquisitions and organizational strategy, transformation, and operational optimization. As an independent consultant since 2008, she has worked with small to medium-sized enterprises, organizations, startups, and educational institutions. Her expertise lies in innovation, transformation, and development, and she excels in analytical problem solving, idea transcriptions, and results-driven execution. Her success is attributed to her ability to establish trust-based relationships with partners, colleagues, stakeholders, executives, and staff. She brings all her expertise to the role of the Executive Director at the F.H. Fauntleroy Community Enrichment Center, where she is dedicated to the success of the landmark project of rolling out DC 39's first Community Resiliency Hub. She leads the expansion and transformation of what was a small community-based organization into becoming a significant contributor to community capacity building. Her work at Fauntleroy Center focuses on addressing systemic injustices by using an equity lens to improve social, economic, educational, health, and environmental outcomes through cross-generational programming. The programs are designed to provide education, literacy, enrichment, and exposure. Guiding the landmark Community Resiliency Hub to success entails organizational expansion, implementing a multi-partner approach, which requires expanding private-public partnerships, a build-out to increase programming space to over 7,000 square feet, and embedding resiliency through solar and battery backup installation. And lastly, through implementing long-term financial, programmatic, and operational strategies to enable robust sustainability. Dr. Montgomery is able to drive success in collaboration with her dedicated board, staff, and partners, and with the support of various funding organizations and donors. I've had the opportunity of presenting on this very subject with Dr. Fauntleroy with Clean Energy Group, and so you're gonna really get a lot out of her presentation. I'll turn it over to you now, Dr. Estelle Montgomery of the Fauntleroy Center.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have two parts to my presentation, and I'm going to go ahead. Let's get right into the video. After the video, I'll give a bit more framing and go through some slides. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We'll need to get the volume on that.
Turn the volume.
We're exactly where we need to be, right? I feel like that we have the staff and the support and the community to be resilient every day. Farmers Center is definitely what you consider family. Ward 7 is home. For me, there's no other place like it.
So I was working in the city of Baltimore and doing resilience hubs there, and had started working with the Urban Sustainability Directors Network as well, doing resilience hubs all over the country. And Department of Energy and Environment came to me and was like, we'd really love for you to come and meet with us group in Ward 7. And so I was invited to come as a presenter, and when I got here, it was amazing to meet with all the residents of the community and to build these relationships. And so I've been invited back a few times to guide and support on what is a resilience hub, what does it look like. And not just for community, actually for the city government folks who needed to learn a little bit that these are not supposed to be government-led and managed. They're actually for the community and led and managed by the community.
In those early days, we needed to learn more and have exposure to how other cities were addressing resilience and what it meant to them in that context. And then we wanted to discuss what are our realities here in this community. We had to go home and read and do our homework and research and dig deep to understand that information and then synthesize it so that we could come back and say, listen, as we evolve in our understanding, I think this building, this site will continue to evolve.
So I'm often asked, what is a resilience hub? What does it look like? And I think there are no two resilience hubs that are alike. What is really special about this site is we are talking about a neighborhood where people have been here generation after generation and invested in this space and love it. And they love it so much that they bring that into wanting to direct what happens. They want to bring it into what their kids' programs look like, what they have access to. It's so community driven and so community owned and managed that it's beautiful to see how people step up, take the management and ownership and say, this is what we want, and we want you to listen to us. We want you to hear us. And that's what's beautiful, is the partners have actually stepped back and been able to do so.
So the FH Fund for a Community Enrichment Center was actually established as a community benefits agreement to serve the residents that live above the building, 100% affordable housing, and the immediate community around. When it was selected to become DC's first pilot resilience hub in 2019, now the organization needed to transform, expand its services, transition into becoming the various aspects of what a resilience hub needs to be. So the center did a very good job with youth programming and senior programming and building the trust of the community. When we were selected as a resilience hub, the community was very clear about the gaps and how the resilience hub needed to serve the community. So you're becoming a resilience hub, you're building the airplane as it's flying. It's flying with programming. But you have an airplane that's not completely ready. We were in a 2,000 square foot space that served very small programming. And we now have the opportunity to expand the footprint by 4,000 square feet. And in that expansion of 4,000 square feet, we will now become a total of 6,000 square feet where we can address programming related to communications. We're going to be putting in place a broadcasting studio. We will have a training center
specifically for behind the computer career pathways training. We are also going to be expanding and creating a commercial kitchen. We have the space to do that now. We are also going to have a maker space. And we're also going to expand our community gathering spaces. Now, fortunately for us, across the street is one of the largest urban gardens, the Lederer Gardens. And the Lederer Gardens is a fantastic community gathering space. And they are looking forward to a moment where we can collaborate on nutrition literacy programming. As we enhanced our physical spaces and programming, we learned about the other 3 foundational areas, such as communications, operations and maintenance, and power systems. And so we started to focus on those areas as well.
Partnering with the Fonterey Resilience Hub has been incredible. They have such amazing services and programs that were already happening, and the building and the surrounding landscape were already really set up well for them to become a resilience hub. What we needed to do is actually look at some of the bigger pieces that were missing. And in the communications space, it was really important to start looking at, did people know what was happening at the site? How could they come in and get engaged? What were ways that they started to feel safe in the site? So it was really exciting to be able to start doing programs and offering additional services like yoga or training for kids on computers, or even just getting people to understand that there's a phone tree that we can start to activate at the site to use to be in proactive communication. So there was the piece of bringing people in, but there's also this opportunity of having people go out and be able to actually get to know their neighbors proactively. That's CERT level 11. So we've had this amazing opportunity to work with Dennis and others to go out and get to know their neighbors, talk to them about the Resilience Hub, tell them what was happening there, and also to invite them to come there so that they could start to build up their relationship with the site and also start to build up relationships with each other, so that in event of a disruption, they would already know it was a safe place to go, that they would have access to the resources that they needed, and that they would be able to be there and supported throughout recovery. As they were improving the communications of the site, they also started working on the operations and maintenance of the site. And the maintenance was looking at different tweaks and retrofits that had to happen so that people could access the site better, coming up with different things related to ADA accessibility and all kinds of things. But we also then started looking at the operations and how the site was going to operate. And so it was fantastic to actually be able to bring in USDN models of an operations manual, then to be able to bring in Department of Energy and Environment and the Fonterey Center, and to collectively work together with other partners to identify how the operations manual will work when we're in everyday mode, and then also, because we were in the middle of COVID during this time, how it was going to work for both a short-term disruption and a long-term disruption like COVID, and then how it supports throughout recovery. What does the site do to adjust and change? We're now working with them to build out their resilient power system. And this takes a pretty long time. So we've been working on the power system for quite a while. We've been working with our partners, Clean Energy Group and American Microgrid Solutions, looking at a solar array and then also thinking of a battery backup system. These systems are really going to help during any sort of extreme weather event where we lose power or have a massive blackout. And it's just an opportunity for community members to be able to charge their cell phones, to be able to come to a space where there's heating and cooling, air filtration that can continue to work at a site, and just for people to know that there's a reliable source of power in any type of disruption. One of the most important things when building a resilience hub is to make sure you're addressing all 5 foundational areas. And so that's making sure that we don't focus on one thing and leave out the others. And that's what's been beautiful about working with Fonterey Center, is they're really working to address all 5 foundational areas and then thinking about those foundational areas in each of the 3 resilience modes, so that they're looking to meet community needs year-round and comprehensively, not centering the disaster, but instead centering the humans and the people that live in their community.
So we get selected as a resilience hub in 2019. And I don't know if you remember, but when COVID hit, couldn't find face masks, and if you did, they were $20 a pop. And so what we did was asked a funder who was going to fund something else and said, can we use that money to support becoming literally a face mask making factory for the community? We made 7,000 face masks. We distributed them mostly to seniors and to the youth. And we also became a distribution center for perishable and non-perishable foods. And we were able to engage United Medical Center mobile unit to come every week to do medical screening. When testing was available for COVID, they did COVID testing. When vaccines were available, they did COVID vaccines. And so we were able to respond in a very impactful and meaningful way when COVID hit. And this gave us so much insight in terms of how we really needed to think about our programming in steady state, but also in disruption.
You'd be surprised how many people walk in and says, what's going on in there? And now they know. They know that there's art there, there's children's programming there, there's classes, there's CERT training. There's all these events that weren't happening 5 years ago that are happening now at this space, and it's only going to get better.
As a Resilience Hub, the other thing that we are is a safe space. We cannot be a successful Resilience Hub if our tentacles do not go far and deep into the community.
This building was a buzz during COVID, and the attention to the community members who were overlooked and its response in real time to the needs, because we needed masks. Our young people, our seniors, we needed masks. This room, this building, when it came out to the rollout of response and readiness during a crisis, this place was moving.
We can
So what
end
is
it
the
there.
first step if you're interested in creating a Resilience Hub? I would highly recommend going to resilience-hub.org and taking a look at the guidance
Yes, slides,
document.
please. So, so that was a prelude. Now let me do a proper introduction and appreciation. Appreciation to you, Queen Shabazz, for inviting me to be part of this panel. I can never talk enough about this work. I came on board as executive director in 2021. I am not part of the amazing group of community members who actually started this work in 2016. What I did was adopt their vision. And the mission has been the work with an amazing team at the Fauntleroy Center to bring it to reality. And as you all know, I love about being from Earth. As much as I too am from Earth, money does help it spin. So when we want to realize our vision, and this vision was developed, led by the Ward 7 Resilience Hub Community Coalition. They're an established group who continue the advocacy and an advisory and some programming as well insofar as disaster preparedness and readiness as well. And what we are rolling out is DC's first community-led resilience hub, just to make that clear. I wanted to also, before I get into the slides, just to give you the magnitude of what we're doing and how it is possible for us to get to where we are today. As you all remember, COVID really set everything back for everyone. So we did have to reset. We real-time experienced disruption and recovery, and I believe we're still recovering. There is a space that has to be built out. That build-out project was budgeted, target budget of $3.7 million. I can tell you today that we have acquired $3.7 million of that funding. And this is a combination of federal and local funding sources. That multi-partner approach has over and over and over again proved to be very successful. We work with multiple agencies and funding and programming out of DC, and I'm going to shout them out because it's worthy of a shout out. DOEE, who provided us with the funding for the solar and battery backup. Office of Racial Equity, that continue to provide technical advisory services to us. DHS, Workforce Development, DPR, for our youth programming, DOES for workforce development, and DEMPED for contributing to the build-out. We also have private foundations that fund us, like the K-Fritz and Prince Charitable. We have private donors. We have organizations and individuals that provide their in-kind expertise, which in itself is extremely valuable. And we're looking to build out our volunteer core, as I'd like to say. So I just wanted to give that bit of information, a few slides here to bring us up to speed, that video was actually taken last year, Juneteenth's celebration. Next slide, please. Oh, I can do this myself, apparently. Aha. So most of us, I think, are familiar with the idea of Resilience Hub. We are following the blueprint regarding community-led and community-based resilience hubs. And, well, we decided we needed to brand our Resilience Hub. And we have decided to brand it the Resilience Incubator. This is the first of its kind in DC, so we are incubating an idea. All of our program is a nod to incubating all of our community members at various levels, whether our young children or our adult population that are looking to redefine their future, whether choosing a different career path or because they're under or unemployed, and our senior citizens as well, who are looking, as we like to call them, our teenagers. So we look to incubate programming that enriches, exposes, and educates, and at the same time, that entrepreneurial spirit is something that we capture in various ways. So we are the Resilience Incubator. Now, the principles that are driving our impact. So trust, I will say that over and over again. We build upon that. We don't take it for granted. We're always appreciative of the trust that the community gives us, because this is a community that's been hurt systemically for a very long time. The other principle that guides how we do what we do is equity. That equity lens is extremely important. So if you lay equity over inclusion, we're talking about meeting the community where they are, not where we think they are, but where they actually are, which means we have to listen. We have to listen and tweak. We might have had a brilliant idea for a design of something. Well, no, that's not going to work. And when you think about environmental literacy, climate justice, climate education around that area, if your community doesn't know when the next meal is coming from, you're going to have to get a little bit more creative about how environmental justice issues are woven into programming that address the day-to-day stressors. Equity and diversity, we have a multi-generational approach, and in that, the perspectives that come with that. Equity and belonging, making sure that we're maintaining safe spaces. Sometimes this means making hard decisions if an individual is disruptive, if an organization doesn't meet and deliver on our values and mission. And then accessibility, where we are, with our build out, we're looking to really make sure that our space and our programming, when you think about what you're doing today in terms of the hybrid accessibility of the programming as well. And equity and justice, right? To support restorative justice. And this is something that we plan to get more and more into as we mature in this role as the Resilience Incubator. So we are repairing, we're renewing, we're reimagining, because we want to rejuvenate community members. Our community is getting revitalized, whether we like it or not, in ways that we may not agree with. And we are determined to make sure that as many community members are part of that revitalization in our role as the Resilience Incubator. So in terms of the phasing of where we are, you would consider that we are in phase 2 out of 3. We're really gotten that funding in so that our space now can reflect the mission and the vision that we are looking to implement. Once you've built it, now you have to maintain it. So you can imagine now the work of operations, programming, funding is, well, it has already been, but now it has to go into hyper gear. I just wanted to provide this overview of our programming. And so on the left and on the right, you see the circles really centered on the community. And we're looking at capacity building, and we're looking at self-determination, right? Programming that goes from self-determination to capacity building. We're looking at the youth, adult, and senior programming, and environmental literacy being a cornerstone of how we design programming. And we're also looking to build resilience and create sustainability. So we're addressing the daily stressors. In this community, it's food desert. We have the worst socioeconomic environmental outcomes, sometimes in DC and sometimes in the nation. And that's shocking. So disruption for us are the acute disruptions. Think about weather events, think about infrastructural events, power outages and so forth, and human-made disasters as well. So everything we do in the middle in terms of the qualitative and the quantitative components is about the impact on the right-hand side. So whether it's the workforce development and literacy that we're doing, the health and wellness, the community engagement, and the preparedness for the community, this is what's driving the design. I just wanted to share this a little bit. The blue space is where we have been. The green space is where we expanded to. In the video, I said 6,000. I was sleepy during that video. It's 7,000. And, sort of an aerial view. I invite you all. We're going to start construction in October. So I invite you all, if you want to see the finished product, probably plan to reach out next summer. The solar and battery backup project. And our value is about excellence with, by, and for the community. We first look within Ward 7 for resources and expertise. If we can't find it there, then we go east of the river. If we can't find it there, we're looking beyond in DC. If we can't find it in DC, we'll look to our brothers and sisters in Virginia and Maryland. And I just want to say, I invite everyone to come join the community of supporters. The partnerships is what enable us to be sustainable and resilient, and through all of those mechanisms. And you can come to our website. You can sign up to become a friend of FH Fauntleroy. You can follow us on social media, and please reach out to the email provided. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Montgomery. That was excellent. And I love to see that you're going to have quiet spaces. Next up, do you want to show your video or speak first? I'm going to introduce. Okay, next up we have Stacy Henry. Stacy puts the power of will into Wilmington. She's from Delaware, helping residents before, during, and after emergency disaster situations. She grew up in Wilmington. At a young age, she served with several organizations, the Girl Scouts, volunteer hospital candy stripers. Her lifelong family values foster successful education and service to others. After 20 years as a MBNA Bank of America business executive, she executed an early retirement opportunity to spend time with her husband of 33 years, 4 children, and 4 grandchildren. Her desire to serve those in need grew stronger in September of 2021 when Hurricane Ida swept through the East Coast and flooded parts of Wilmington. This was a devastating and traumatic time for over 230 families who were left without immediate disaster services or resources. Henry developed and organized what is now a fully operational resilience hub, the first and only one of its kind in the state, Delaware First Resilience Hub. She spent many days and nights helping families receive basic and long-term recovery services like food, clothing, and shelter. She partnered with the Wilmington Police Athletic League facility to conduct necessary Okay, thank you. To conduct necessary, is that better? Good, thanks. To conduct, necessary planning and training meetings to execute individual case management with successful resolutions for each person affected by the hurricane. Delaware First Resilience Hub provides reliable, environmentally sustainable resources to address disaster and emergency preparedness with innovative resilience solutions. Stacy is a nationally celebrated USA Today's 2023 Women of the Year awardee for her selfless, steadfast, long-term, challenging journey and commitment to serving disaster-impacted communities. She's also an avid Red Cross disaster response volunteer. She's described as an advocate for people. She and her volunteers activated a mobile emergency command operation May of last year as a result of one of Wilmington's underserved communities. She was called to address the needs of 27 families who were forced out of their apartments into the streets without notice or a plan to recover, due to a building inspector declaring the whole city block uninhabitable and unsafe to live in. Stacy again organized and executed Operation Adams, which consisted of communicating a plan to help pack the residents up, rent moving trucks to transport their belongings to storage, and secure temporary housing for the residents. Her work continued until all families were managed through a successful relocation process. Stacy's courageous acts of kindness and resiliency has served as a game changer for emergency and disaster management. She salutes the volunteers and community partners as they continue to give of their time, talent, and treasure to support her in the work of Delaware First Resilience Hub. Join me in welcoming Ms. Stacy Henry. We're going to start with showing this video clip, and then Stacy's going to say a few words. Thank you.
Second, 2021, there was rain and a flood in Northeast Wilmington.
God bless these people.
Hurricane Ida.
Look at this.
So I got in my car and I drove around to help a family and their little children get to drier land. And I started to talk to the residents about some of the things that possibly could help them. And we developed this core team to go out and educate and provide resources for communities so that they're better informed in case of an emergency. Delaware's first resilience hub. When or if there's a disaster, we activate to the location to assess how we can help. Now, when there's no disasters going on, we have monthly meetings on preparedness. What we want to do is prepare this Wilmington community for any type of disaster that may be coming down the pike. Remember the day I met you guys coming out your apartment?
Yeah. Being in a flood of that magnitude is something that nobody would want to go through. Stacy was there to help.
It was on my heart to do it.
She prepared meals herself at home, bought the meals in. From there, she was there the whole time.
The best that we can.
Thank you.
Since Hurricane Ida, there has also been a whole city block of residents living in apartments that were condemned with no resources or places to go. We sprung into action. We got names and phone numbers. We drove people to local motels. Those apartments are still closed today. This is a community where we put together emergency kits for them to put in their house. When we had a heat wave here in Wilmington, we opened cooling stations where people could come in and then we would give them snacks and water to go. All out of the Delaware Resilience Hub, which is solely owned and operated by volunteers. You never know what you're gonna need when there's a disaster. I recently had my own disaster. This summer, our house caught on fire, pretty much burned to the ground. We lost everything. And before I could truly say to residents, I'm sorry this happened, but now I understand, so it's like I feel what they're feeling, and we really can't change the disaster, but we can move forward and help them to rebuild from what they're going through. Okay, just drive over by the apartments. I'm right here in the park. Earlier this year, I was recognized as one of USA Today's Women of the Year. I am honored to receive it, and I hope my story will encourage other people to step out of their comfort zone and just be a part of their community and help to serve in any capacity that they can. I'm not going nowhere,
Woman of the Year. Come on up here, Stacy. Excellent.
Wow.
Are you guys feeling this? I want to pay with you everywhere. You get 5% cash back on any cap.
That's not me. Well, again, truly honored to be here today. And thank you, Queen Shabazz, for thinking of me when you were putting this together. But I stand here a little emotional when I hear and see what's happening in D.C. And I think about Delaware, the first state. When the Hurricane Ida came through our city and kind of destroyed a small community, there was things the community was looking for, and it wasn't me, but it was help. Someone to feel what they were feeling, to lose everything, your house, your car, your money, your food, and the resources to help them was not available. And that morning, I was minding my business, but went into the community when the flood was actually happening, and there was a family that literally had no car, and I helped them get to safety. As I turned and looked in my rearview mirror, the water was coming so fast and high, and all I could say was, what am I doing here? And my spiritual self said, you're here to help. Okay, I helped. I did what I was supposed to do. But later that day, again, the resources that we were looking for to help these families who were standing there in their pajamas and diapers, no food, no clothing, no support. So I continued to ask questions. I continued to make phone calls. The only answer I received was from the community. So I had a shed. I started to receive items, non-perishables, clothes, whatever people needed to get their homes back in order. And still there were 236 families that were homeless with no support. I continued this journey not knowing what to call it or how to make it an actual program or organization. As time went on, I received some phone calls because the story did hit local news and national news. And I received a couple of phone calls from someone who went through Hurricane Katrina. And they saw what I was trying to do, so they were able to talk to me and walk me through some processes. So we continued looking for the support that everyone knows should be there. It wasn't there. And we continued to build with just volunteers. I mean, we've done so much. We've done education with FEMA. I'm actually a trainer for FEMA now, where I train in the community. I do things to help community residents understand disasters, not only environmental disasters, but any type of disasters. We've been experiencing heat waves these last couple of summers that are kind of not normal. We started cooling centers several years ago where we opened up places for them to have air conditioning, water, food. And one thing that our community group does, we don't just give out stuff. You may come in because it's hot and you need water, but you're going to leave with nutritional information, food, and resources. Most people that come into a cooling center, heat is not their only problem. So what we do is we speak with them and we talk to them about what their other challenges are. And like I say, you may come in because it's a cooling center, but if you have several issues, before you leave, we will either Uber you to a resource, make an appointment with you, make sure that whatever brought you to our center, that it's taken care of, or at least there's a path forward.
I listened to watched her video today, and all I can say is when we grow up, we want to be just like your center. We want to have everything in place because we're small and we are an all volunteer organization. We train, we are in the community, we meet with the community, and our seniors are our most vulnerable population. So we have a campaign this summer where we've gone to senior living, senior citizens, places where they live, and we train them on disaster preparedness and how to be prepared. We have a kit that we train with, and it has 23, 24 items in it. Each item, before they get the kit, we show them how to use it, and then we show them what they need to add to the kit. So if anything happens, when Hurricane Ida happened, everyone called 911 because they didn't know what else to do. In our kit, there's a crank radio, which does not require plug-in or batteries. So we show them how to use it. And when we're talking to our seniors, they're just so thankful. And some seniors experienced Hurricane Ida, and they were afraid because they didn't know what to do, and the 911 calls were not being answered. So they were like, okay, I had no idea what to do. Now I feel comfortable in my home. I know more about what I need to do if something happens, and they know that the Delaware Resilience Hub is not just a place to call when there's an emergency. So there are programs that we offer, there are services that we offer. We deal a lot with heat deserts, and we work with food banks, but we also work with community organizations. They may already have that service available, getting the information out so people know where to go or they know where the services are. And again, I'm just overwhelmed by what we saw and heard here today, and I just think, we may be a small state and a small organization, but we are going to grow to the capacity where we're able to service our whole state. Right now, we're in one part of the state, and we continue to move forward. And this environmental space is a safe place for our residents now, where before folks just didn't know, and they were very concerned about the things that could happen, that did happen. And because where the flood happened, there has been no infrastructure change. So if a flood like that comes again, or a hurricane, we're still concerned, and we're working on some advocacy to get our folks in charge to do something about that. So again, I'm just honored, and I'm just so excited to hear that, a community-based organization now has 7,000 square feet. Our building that we have is new. We're looking to build the infrastructure. Right now, we work with partners in our community. We set up our cooling centers around our community, the areas that are most disadvantaged. But we're just excited to be a part of some resiliency in our state. And we look forward to just growing and learning from other states and other organizations. And if you're not in this space right now in your community, I urge you, if it's not there, start it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey Henry. And I hope somebody will get a camera ready, because I've got to take a picture with these dynamic ladies. Just the fact that these Resiliency Hub efforts are led by women, by Black women, as we are on the verge of having the first woman president. It's just, not to get political, so I don't want Dr. Wilson saying anything, but I couldn't help but, make that connection, that analogy, and I am honored to be in the company with you all. So in the interest of time, we're gonna go right into a short video clip so that we can have some time for Q&A. Nicole, any questions from the virtual audience that we?
Yes, so we have a commenter that said, Dr. Montgomery, so impressive regarding the health and wellness literacy and what we might call psychological
You say it again. For Dr. Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Regarding, did you hear it? Okay. Yes, yes.
When you are under stress, when you are completely tasked physically and emotionally, it is difficult to know what it is that you need. So we are not necessarily hearing from the community about what they believe they need, but when they come to us for other reasons, what we know is that there's a lot of environmental trauma and anxiety that our community managed through because we're in a flood zone. So you have homeowners, every time they see a dripple outside, they get very anxious over and over and over again. You have malnutrition. You have inaccessibility to oral health, hygiene, and that impacts your whole body. So what we're doing is looking at what we're seeing and designing what we believe will be beneficial to the community. And only as they are partaking in those programs can we then get the feedback. Then we will hear what we need to do to adjust to meet them where they are. But yeah, trauma is real. I'm going to take the opportunity to say two things. I shouted out all the DC agencies. I forgot the federal ones. HUD and NOAA for the Environmental Literacy Program grant.
Thank you. Okay, so what we all have in common, why I invited these two, that we are the first in our communities. I envision a resiliency hub in Petersburg, Virginia, but we are the first in the state, first in Delaware, first in DC, and we know there's a lot of interest now for resiliency hubs to be established. So we wanted to present this to you so that you have a place to ask your questions and get assistance with if your desires to have a resiliency hub in your community. This short film shows ours in Petersburg, Virginia. It's an old USO building that was used for colored Army troops during military segregation. It is on the state and national list of historic sites, and just like some of the programming you heard at Fauntleroy and Delaware's first Resilience Hub, we have some of those same services. So thank you for enjoying this, and we'll take some more questions afterwards. You can go ahead and run that, please. Thank you, thank you. We also have a full commercial kitchen licensed to open as a restaurant. The name of our restaurant is Orange You Hungry, the fruit orange, Orange You Hungry. And we'll be opening November 1st, we're scheduled to open. And this month we got our first zero balance electricity bill to Dominion Energy. We also have solar plus storage, battery storage. So we got our first bill zero. We're now feeding back to the grid. So we are happy to report that. And I'm just, again, glad to be in the company of women that's doing dynamic things. You know, we're often overlooked and criticized and all the other stuff that you hear, the bad stuff, but we're doing great things, and I just wanted to be able to present that. So we will take questions from the audience. If you have any questions or comments, please, now's the time. So, but our time is up. Do we have for one? Because we started a little late, so we hoping that, you know, you all will stay with us. If you have any questions or comments, please. Yes, sir. Does he have to come up to the mic? Thanks. Go ahead.
To what extent do the resiliency hubs tie into city or county planning, to the extent that even city or county planning exists?
Good question. Yeah, go ahead. We didn't. Ours is community led.
So. Yeah. Our Resilience Hub part of city planning?
Yeah. Like, so your community-led part, has that been essentially adopted by the city or the county?
So there is a lot of sort of pull and push on this in terms of resilience hubs that are led by the city and community-led resilience hubs. You have cities that are planning to have resilience hubs within, I don't know, 2 miles or 10 miles walking distance. The resilience hubs that we are implementing in the blueprint that we are following is that of community-led, because we're putting the power back in the community. Government is a very important partner. That's why I shouted out all of the agencies. They have technical expertise that we can call on and use as we implement what we know that the community says that they need. So I'm not bashing the the government-led resilience hubs, but if you listen closely, you'll see that some cities, local governments started an initiative and then realized, wow, you know what? No, we're not willing to be open on Saturdays. No, we're not going to be open past 5 o'clock. No, so that's not flexible, right? So there is this balance to be struck, and I wasn't present, but in DC, in the project that I'm involved in, DOEE did come to the community to explore the idea and did a fantastic thing of letting the community lead the process. And that's how we are where we are today, where they are an essential technical partner, but it's community-led.
Thank you for that question. Our Resilience Hub is owned, operated, funded by the community. There are no large government grants or angel funders, if you will. It's all owned and operated by the city, and by the community. And we have been operating that way for 3 years. There's no paid employees or staff. We are the volunteer staff working with the community, and we work together.
Yes, thank you for that question. We are not volunteer staff. We, by design, resiliency hubs, community resiliency hubs. So the community voice has to be the loudest and the voice out front. And that's the design that ours is built upon. But we certainly welcome and accept support. Our city government, our mayor is very much involved. Our council people are very much involved. We have foundational funds. We have local fund and federal funds. So, we welcome all that because that's needed. And as Dr. Wilson always says it's the people's money, you know, so the money into the community and let the community people continue to do the work that we've done so often for free. You know, we should be paid staff, and our communities are bearing the brunt of the environmental injustices, so we're trying to, you know, put a balance on that. So thank you for your question. Yes, ma'am. What are some of the gaps in services when people come into the resiliency hub? Stacy, you want to take that?
What we do is, that's where
I wish I could move this thing. I can't move this. I wish I could move the mic. I'm sorry. Good question.
Excellent question. And, you know, what we do, as I stated earlier, you may come in for one thing, but there are other issues or concerns or challenges. We don't like to use the word problem because it's not a problem, because we're going to help you through the challenge. So that's where our partners come in. You know, we don't claim to be the do-all, because in order for you to be in a community, you need community partners. And what we foster our work on is not trying to duplicate what's already being done. We are a community connector. We connect, and then we follow up. So sometimes, you know, you go and you may get a referral. Every referral that we do, we follow up, and if things didn't connect, we do another referral, maybe to a different partner, to make sure the community's needs are being met. Did I answer your question? Well, we talked about, both of us talked about food deserts, trauma, mental health and trauma go together, literacy. There's something that we're doing. We're doing bingo, digital bingo, where we are training folks who are not computer literate on how, through a digital bingo game, how to learn more about technology at their own pace. Of course, the economy, jobs, childcare and education is a big thing that's coming up in our state. And again, we don't claim to be the experts. We may have people on our team that can help with that, but we want to make sure our partners have an opportunity to use the funding that they probably already received from the government or whoever, and make sure we partner together so that we can help solve some of the challenges that the folks have. Did that answer your question? Okay. And housing, subsidized, affordable housing, homelessness.
And one thing that I think all of our hubs have in common is that we're not just there during the time of disaster. So we're operating every day so people can get to know where we are, the services and the things that we offer. I like to call ours a one-stop shop. We also offer training. We've even trained 20 people on solar installation. One is in the audience, Sister Tamara. Was one of our first trainees, and we were able to give them stipends, and they actually had hands-on by going on our roof and installing the solar panels. We have a DMV 8-hour driver improvement class to remove those barriers. We do the DMV escort vehicle drivers certification. We do lead and mold remediation training. So those things that are going on every day so that the hub becomes an integral part of the community, not just when in times of crisis. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those needs are being serviced on every day. And as Dr. Montgomery said, a lot of our government counterparts they don't want to come out on Saturday, And with October's National Lead Poisoning Prevention Week, we're even going to have a flight. Some volunteer pilots are going to take some of us up to tour the EJ sites in Virginia. And I'll be sending that notice out. Hopefully, some of you all can come and join us because it's different seeing it, from an aerial view. and seeing, you know, how we're addressing it. Because we don't want to just talk about the harms and the ills that's being done, but I think our resiliency hubs, we are counteracting that. You know, we're not just saying, oh, this is happening to us. We're fighting back. We're doing something about it, giving our communities hope to know that we can fight this, you know, these injustices. Any other questions? Anything else from the virtual, Nicole? Okay. Any other questions in the room or comments?
All receiving congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to ask if you've been receiving any ongoing support from the Urban Sustainability Directives Network, but then the question kind of came in my head instead as what is the best partner beyond, you know, local community groups or local government, which people couldn't replicate, but like, you know, who on a national level, if anybody, might you recommend that's supportive of your work?
Clean Energy Group gave us a technical technical assistance funds for a feasibility study. They also funded our first training class. I think Institute for Sustainable Communities is one of our major funders. NOAA is one. USDN, we had talks with them in the beginning, but we have not gotten any funding from them. ARP is one. Who else? We got Clean Energy Group. Hanu Foundation, they actually donated our solar panels to us and then paid to have the solar installed. Hanud, Honnold, Hanud Foundation. It's not just in Virginia, they fund nationally. You are welcome, and I'm trying to think of who else. Our city was, you know, very supportive. Local government is very supportive, as well as some lesser known, you know, foundations. Thanks, a good question, because we want to make sure that we, you know, shout out to our funders, because we appreciate them getting us to this point. Certainly. Collectrify also is another one that's helping us to, for building electrification. Even in our restaurant, we want to use, you know, all electrical appliances. So that's another. So it's been a great journey, and just seeing the support that we all have gotten, and you know, we hope that will continue, and that we see more resiliency hubs popping up in our community, because they are so needed. You know, during these heat islands, during the extreme flooding, and all of these different things that we're facing. So it's really needed. Yes, ma'am. Certainly. Yep, schools and churches was the question. Can schools and churches also be? It could really be any building that the community deems that it wants to use. It could be any building. Two of Delaware's resiliency hubs are in churches. Cooling centers are in churches. So those are certainly community partners. Anything else? Any final words, ladies? Any? Yes, thank you both. Yes, and we, you know, you have our contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out. We would love to be able to assist and provide, you know, what worked for us, what didn't work so well. If you're interested in creating a resiliency hub, certainly encourage them. Thank you all for staying with us. Appreciate you. Thank you. And a hand to our panels, please.